crypto bros, fiscal hawks, and policy nerds. Today's episode is something for everyone. What do crypto regulations and California weather have in common? They both change fast, get national attention, and occasionally leave everyone a little red in the face.
And both are hot this year.
They are indeed. So welcome back to Beyond the Bill Number, where we decode the fine print behind the flashy headlines. I'm Stephen.
And I'm Sarah, your tour guide through the tangled jungle of legislation.
Today's topic, crypto in the crosshairs. That's right, federal and state governments are finally getting serious about regulating digital assets. From Capitol Hill to California, lawmakers are writing the rule books for how crypto should function in the real world.
We're talking stablecoins, self-custody, and a little something called a sheet mint, which sounds like a weird French cheese or something, but it's actually about the government taking crypto when you forget about it.
Excellent. Okay, so yes, let's talk about crypto. But the thing is, I have a confession to make, which is I know absolutely nothing about crypto. It's not something that's ever featured in my life at all. I know a few vague things about data mining in Iceland, and that's about it really. So why don't we start by you, as our crypto expert, giving us a little bit of a primer on what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I'm the expert in this room, but that's not saying a lot. Today, when people say crypto, you're only kind of getting part of this picture. So this is something that everybody kind of calls Bitcoin. All of crypto, it's kind of like Kleenex to tissues or something like that. But it's really different, and there's different types of it. There's meme coins, there's stable coins that we will talk about today. A lot of us know about the Doge coin for the Doge father himself. Trump is doing a little bit of stuff with issuing crypto and kind of trading that, so that's interesting too. But a stablecoin is basically a type of cryptocurrency that's designed to not freak out people, because a lot of crypto has really high highs, really low lows. There's rules where if you put $100 into something and it's $100,000, you can only sell 10% a quarter or something like that. So it's like kind of artificially keeping the price up. There's a lot of like kind of different things there. But stablecoin, it's pegged, which means that it's aligned to something that is a stable form of currency. And the most stable form of currency recognized around the world is the US dollar. And so with stablecoin, one stablecoin equals $1. So it's supposed to be kind of what crypto started as something that's deregulated by the federal government, but there's still more stability to it than what we've seen with maybe a Doge coin or, Shiba coin. Whatever all these different coins are, Trump coin.
It does beg the question though. So if your stable coin is pegged to being the same as the dollar, then why not just use the dollar? Why bother using it at all? I mean, what's the purpose of them really?
Yeah, so I mean, crypto started out as a way to move money in a non-federally regulated kind of tracked way. So a lot of people were using these, back when Bitcoin came out, to buy drugs on the Silk Road and things like that. And so it is just trying to kind of deregulate a very regulated, very kind of centralized part of our economy. I even worked with a company, probably back in 2014. And this idea is really popular with a lot of people of kind of decentralizing currency. And there were these people in Denver who were trying to make this community currency. And so they were literally making fake dollars, essentially. And I can't even remember what they were called. But you would give like 10 of your real US dollars, and then you'd get like 15 of these community currency dollars. And then they were trying to get people and businesses in Capitol Hill neighborhood of Denver to take this fake money and make it community currency. And it's just kind of an idea that people are really interested in. I think that how Bitcoin has kind of exploded and become something, putting their money in it, holding their money there, it is this new investment class. I don't know if that was something that was intentional. I think that's something that's happened as a result of the hype, and that you do have to keep your money in it for like certain periods of time. A lot of this started gaining traction really in 2014. And so that's kind of when those community currencies were going out that I was working with. Bitcoin was becoming a more common household thing. It wasn't just some like random thing for people who are super online or super kind of in the weeds. And people realized that it was a way to move their money around. Stable coins became their kind of version of digital cash, if you will. And so a lot of our money, we don't even think about this as much anymore, but a lot of our money is just a digital idea now because we do online banking, or you don't have your money in your mattress anymore. The stable coins allow for fast, easy to transfer, and they're not supposed to be kind of bouncing all over the place, super temperamental like we have seen with some of these other types of coins. There's a fiat-backed stable coin, which are the simplest one, $1 for every token issued. It's very affiliated with the US dollar, and it's pretty straightforward, and it's the money's there, this is what it is. But then there's also crypto-backed stable coins, and these are backed by other cryptocurrencies, and they are kind of this like extra collateral that you would put up with it. So you might deposit $150 of Ethereum to mint $100 of stablecoin. And this in itself is kind of interesting because you're kind of in it admitting that Ethereum is more of an idea and fake than what a stablecoin could be, because you're taking something like Ethereum, which is honestly a pretty stable crypto, and okay, well, only like 150 Ethereum are only worth 100 stable because Ethereum is over here doing this and I want my money to maybe do that. This is, again, just trying to stay pegged to something. And it's not so influenced by supply and demand or hype or the internet, Twitter. Donald Trump's crypto with all of the trade wars was just going up and down and up and down because people were trying to decide it was a good time to buy, a bad time to buy. And it's losing 1,000% of its value each and every day, or gaining, 2,000% of its value. Nothing is as volatile as the crypto market.
Pure speculation and volatility. And so you can earn a fortune or you can lose a fortune. But I mean, my view of crypto was always that it's used by criminals because it's a way of dodging the banking system and, money laundering regulations and things. So obviously that's a bad thing, if it's kidnappers and drug dealers who are using it. And then also that it was just this super risky investment speculation thing. If you talk to any reliable, responsible portfolio investor and so on, they'll always say, we don't touch it with a barge pole. If you want to gamble your money in that way, that's absolutely fine. Have a gamble, go and have some fun, but it's not an investment, right? It's not a proper investment. It's gambling. It's buying a lottery ticket, right? Effectively, which is all fine. But then stablecoin does seem to go against these principles. It's almost like saying, no, let's try and turn it into something that's more sane and that can be used
an attempt to
on a more day-to-day basis. Yeah.
And we'll get into this when we start talking about the legislation. But the interesting thing with kind of what you just said is that absolutely is it, because a lot of people just keep their money in crypto and they don't move it. Because if you look at the history of Bitcoin over the last, let's say, 7 years, it's gone like, ooh, 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 ooh. Or always like, gotta hold, don't sell, it's going on a down, but it'll be up. And like, it is. A lot of this, I personally believe, is people's will keeping it up, and people know it cannot possibly crash because my money's in it or something like that. But also exactly what you said, a lottery ticket. My stepbrothers put $100 into this thing called Shiba coin, and it blew up, and they ended up getting like $100,000 from it that they were able to take out because they were only allowed to take out like 10% per quarter because they were like artificially keeping the value high, because obviously if you put $100 in and then it was worth $1 million, you'd be like, I'm cashing in that mill because like I'm gonna buy a house or whatever it is. So it's a really interesting thing here. But in California, they're trying to figure out how to not have people just leaving parts of their wealth just like sitting forever and not really doing anything in the economy.
Absolutely. Yes. That's it's a good point, isn't it? Actually, I haven't really thought about it like that. So if you invest in the stock market, then you are giving money to a company to allow that company to make some stuff and therefore add value to the world generally, and certainly add value to the country that thing exists in. So investing in the stock market in that respect is a good thing. Whereas crypto is just there, isn't it? So you sit it there. It's not helping anyone. It's not helping you. It's not helping anyone else. It's not helping the world in any way. So right.
And it's not like a bank who's reloaning out your money and helping other people with your money. It's just sitting there. So
Okay, so great. So that's a good little introduction to exactly what this stablecoin is. So shall we get into it then? And let's start talking about what this is. So just to sort of summarize all of that, what is it that we're regulating here?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Cryptocurrency refers to digital assets that use cryptography to let people make secure peer to peer transactions without a central authority. So, no banks, no middlemen. It's just in between two people and the internet, if you will. Bitcoin is what started it all in 2009, and that's where we started getting introduced to the idea of blockchain. But blockchain goes far beyond cryptocurrency and the types of ways that it could be used. A lot of people talk about using blockchain as kind of a source of truth for deep fake AI and other things like that. And so blockchain is essentially just a way of proving origin kind of thing. So now we have thousands of different types of tokens for different types of purposes, and crypto has really kind of spread off into all these different areas. But one really key category, which we'll be talking about today, is these stable coins. So these cryptocurrencies that are pegged to a fixed value, usually the US dollar, and they're used for payments, savings, crypto trading. They're actually kind of more meant to be used than what crypto has kind of become as this asset to hold, and that's kind of hypey and cool. And they've all kind of got mainstream enough that Congress has finally decided to set some rules around it.
Excellent. So, great. Congress is finally stepping up, set some rules. It makes a change, doesn't it? So this brings us to the two bills we're going to talk about today, which are making waves in DC. We've got the Stable Act and the Genius Act. So a stable genius. We obviously know our stable genius in chief there, the president. So is this a coincidence, or did they deliberately say this as a
well, they are two different bills. So I do think that it is just a coincidence. And we all know how much Congress loves to make a nice little alliteration at the beginning of their bill. The Stable Act makes sense, stable coin. But the Genius Act is an interesting one. And that's Senate Bill 1582. And that stands for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins. Which, I mean, I gotta say, Genius is way more catchy than that. So it sets up a whole regulatory framework for payment stablecoins, and it requires them to be fully backed one-to-one by safe liquid assets. So kind of what we put the US banking system through, and I'm not quite sure how it works in the UK. I imagine it's pretty similar, but you got to back the assets that you're doing things with as people are putting their money with you. US currency or short-term treasuries are kind of what these people could use, but only approved issuers can operate, and they have to meet strict rules on reserves, transparency, and anti-money laundering.
Aha, so there's that anti-money laundering thing coming in again. So the government actually finally saying, let's actually try and clean this up and use it for legitimate purposes. So it effectively means then that you can't just whip up a coin in your basement and call it $1 or something and then put it out there to make $1 million.
Exactly. And issuers have to disclose everything: the reserve breakdowns, fees, redemption policies, and regulators at both the state and federal level get broad powers to enforce this. The bill even handles bankruptcy and what happens to prevent anyone from falsely claiming that their stablecoin is government backed. And it's kind of a work to legitimize this while still understanding that it is not the US dollar.
Absolutely. Okay. So this bill then, which actually sounds quite sensible, the Senate passed it and it was bipartisan. That's pretty amazing for the Senate. It's pretty rare air up there, actually, people agreeing on anything.
Yes, I know. I think part of that also has to just talk about how much crypto has managed to infiltrate our society, and people want to be cool. And also people have lost their entire fortunes. People have run away with entire crypto wallets, and it's been a big thing. So the industry needs clarity. It likes clarity, and customer advocates are very cautiously optimistic when it comes to this. It's kind of the crypto version of having some adult supervision over this thing that's been a teen running wild for years.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a great analogy, isn't it? It's like maybe back in 2009 was the toddling phase, and now we're in the wild teenage phase, and this is about saying, come on, time to grow up and get a proper job.
Yep. Time for some responsibilities.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So that's the Senate doing their best there. And over in the House, we've got the Stable Act of 2025, not about horses, I'm guessing. So what is this House version bringing to the party?
Yeah, so that's HR 2392, aka the Stablecoin Transparency and Accountability for a Better Ledger Economy.
Got
Stable.
you.
Um, always catchy. But this is similar to the Genius, but it's has a little bit of extra flavor around it. So it also requires licensing for stablecoin issuers and mandates that 100% of the reserves are in safe liquid assets. Monthly reports are required, and there's a ban on interest-bearing stablecoins, and this is meant to keep them from behaving like securities or bank deposits. So this oversight is shared between federal agencies and compliant state regulators.
Aha, okay. So that is an interesting twitch, isn't it? So you can't say have a Dogecoin savings account which pays you 5% per year and that kind of thing. Because yeah, we've already got those, right? You've already got bank
Yeah.
accounts, all sorts of different ways of getting that kind of interest. This is meant to be something different from that.
Not if this passes. It also includes a temporary ban on algorithmic stablecoins, and these are the ones that try to replace math with magic and crash dramatically. So you may have heard of Terra Luna, and this is a collapse from 2022, and it was with something that was this so-called algorithmic stablecoin, and it wasn't actually backed by any real assets. And when the system was supposed to keep it pegged to the dollar, it broke down, and the whole thing kind of unraveled overnight. Investors literally lost billions, and it triggered this huge wave of panic across the entire crypto market. And that meltdown is exactly the kind of instability that lawmakers are trying now to prevent with these stricter rules, reserve requirements, bans on these algorithmic stablecoins. And it's at least until we can kind of understand how to make this safer, this is one of those things that we talk about a lot where it is hard for Congress to legislate new tech because this new tech is complicated. Not a person can be an expert on immigration, healthcare, and stablecoin, and it's hard to understand what these are. It's hard to understand what these new inventions, technologies could have as impacts of them this year or 10 years from now, and decisions now really could be a problem. And so this is kind of why Congress has noticed this, if you will.
Absolutely. So, okay. So another one that actually sounds surprisingly sensible for the House. What are the odds of this one passing, do we think? How's it doing?
This one is still in committee. It doesn't seem to have the legs that the Senate bill has, but we'll see.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. Okay, so great. So that's Congress actually sort of stepping up and trying to do its job. So that's great. So let's fly west then. Why is California making crypto headlines now?
Because California is not willing to wait around for Congress, and it's the birthplace of the crypto startups and, frankly, a whole lot of crypto disasters as well. California is kind of one of our more ingenuitive states and really tech heavy. So they have been somewhere where there's been a lot of talk about crypto, other things that crypto have led to, like blockchain, Web3. Those are all kind of happening in California. And the state is advancing two pretty major bills to try to curb some of the disasters that they've seen.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's start with AB 1180. What's the pitch?
So AB 1180 is a pilot program that lets some state payments be made using digital financial assets and not legal tender, but these things like crypto that can act as mediums of exchange and store value. And the pilot runs from 2026 to 2031 and requires the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation to file a report in 2028 about kind of what's been going on, how it's been working. And it's a cautious, controlled, and honestly kind of smart approach. It's one of these iterative approaches where they're trying to see what it looks like, test it out, and says, let's test this before we go full sci-fi and it's all crypto utopia.
Absolutely, absolutely. It sounds like a very sensible approach, really. Running a pilot, it's quite refreshing these days to have lawmakers say, maybe we don't know everything. We should
Right.
probably test it before we roll it out. Okay, so what about AB 1052?
So that is the big one. And this is the one that you've probably been seeing if you've been seeing any coverage about California and crypto in the last few weeks. But this one at its heart sets up licensing for any business that's involved in digital financial asset activity. And it makes accepting crypto for goods and services explicitly legal, which weirdly isn't always clear before. But the real headline here is that unclaimed crypto becomes a sheeted property after 3 years. So if you forget about that Bitcoin wallet, you're trying to hold on to it as this investment, whatever that might be, it could go to the state after 3 years of not being used. And the state can assign a licensed custodian to manage the assets and essentially kind of put those funds back in the economy or use them in a different way.
That is really, really interesting, isn't it? Because I've read vaguely stories about people like losing their keys and things like that. So they've got all this vast amount of money that's locked up in Bitcoin, and there's no way for them to get hold of it because they've lost this one little thing. And that is sort of one of the flaws in the big plan here. It might be the government doesn't come up in your business, but also the government can't help you when if you lose whatever it is that allows you access to this. But in this case, then the state of California could end up like holding on to your Dogecoin if you go sort of off grid or happen to lose your wallet.
Yeah, exactly. And that custodian has to meet top tier cybersecurity and compliance standards. And this is really serious infrastructure. It's not a half-baked wallet or post-it note private keys kind of thing. And again, this is something that is interesting because people do just leave their money in crypto and see where it is. And this does kind of go back to our conversation of it being like a lottery ticket. People just throw $100 here, $100 there and see what happens. And if you wait long enough, that $100 might be worth $1 million. But also, this is taking money out of our economy. It's just like sitting around, and you can lose all of your money if you lose your wallet or something like that.
Okay, great. So we've got these bills. Some are making progress, others are still sat there. So zooming out then, what does all of this tell us?
Well, it tells us that crypto regulation is here, finally, and that it's real. The Genius Act and Stable Act build this kind of federal framework for stablecoins. They're picking something that's not as crazy at the beginning. They're trying to pick something that is a little bit more how we could figure out how to fit it into our day-to-day life as it stands. And California's AB 1180 and 1052 explore how crypto does fit into society with payments, businesses, and property law. And this really isn't about some kind of reactionary panic. It's about proactive governance and trying to actually implement these new innovations in the way that we live, in a way that is protecting people from bad actors and those types of things. And it's kind of one of those situations where we're getting into of people not wanting the government in their business, but also somebody steals all your money and runs off with your Bitcoin wallet. Maybe you do want the government.
Exactly. This is what's weird about this, is that the whole point of crypto is that it's a way of using money, buying stuff with the government not having sort of any say in it at all. So it's presumably the people who are sort of really evangelical about this stuff are the ones who are very sort of, I don't want to have anything to do with the government. So how are these crypto bros actually going to react to the fact that the government is now coming in and saying, no, we're going to regulate the hell out of this. We're going to have all of these rules, and surely that almost negates the entire purpose of crypto. I mean, are they going to have to actually go out and create something new, something like crypto, that's sort of outside of all of these rules, and sort of move it all forward? But certainly it's going to be tough on the drug dealers and the kidnappers. So, I mean, as you say, the really big signal from all of this is that people are finally realizing that it's not a flash in the pan, that it's not just going to disappear next month. It's not all going to collapse and just be another bubble that collapses and everyone forgets about. That yes, we're all at some point, I think, going to have to start dealing with crypto and what role it's going to play. So basically then, whether you're a blockchain believer or you're just trying to keep your Venmo working, the legislative world is finally catching up to digital finance.
Yes, and they're doing it one very carefully worded and acronymed bill at a time.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you very much for that. That was very illuminating. I learned a lot of stuff. So that's it for this week's Beyond the Bill number. If your crypto wallet is feeling nervous, don't worry. We'll keep tracking the policy behind the panic.
Yes, subscribe, share, and send us your favorite stablecoin themed dad joke if you have one. And keep looking beyond that bill number. We'll see you next time.